Round 1 was about Java, and round 2 was about microservices and the system designs, and round 3 was completely different. So this was not an interview anymore. I felt like the real project discussions with an architect. And in this round, I was evaluated as an senior engineer, and also this is the round after which I got the offer. So let's get started with the video. I will suggest you to subscribe to the Deep Developer YouTube channel where I make videos on Java, Spring Boot, microservices, and every day I am creating the videos on company-wise interview experience. And so I have shared on EPAM interview, Infosys interview. You can watch this playlist for better understanding. So let's move ahead with the video. Ask questions, then they will definitely ask you about your project and to explain the architectures of the projects. So let's start. You can start with the solutions. Like uh, what they are actually looking for is not the class level explanations and not like the coding details. They want like high level system designs, like they want like component interactions and data flow. So I have explained like the microservices architectures, API gateway, service to service communications, like database interactions, asynchronous communications if any. So you can explain like user to API gateway, microservices, database to response. Like even if you have not have much idea, I will suggest you to check on to your current projects and try to explain the each components like API gateway, database, how they are communicating with each others. And if move to the next questions, and next questions is on like they will ask like most challenging production problem you have solved in your current projects. So that was the problem or the questions that they have asked. So I explained real production problems, like you can also explain like performance issues, scaling issue, failure scenarios, and then what you can try to explain like what are the challenges that you have faced and what the solution you have implemented, then what are the impact after implementing the solutions. And this is very important because they judged you based on the problem solving and the ownership of your projects. So you can start with like star methodology. You can explain the situations like what are the system, what are the context, and what are the problem you have find out, and what did you do that, and after that how it impacted your production performance. You can tell like you can like give one example, like for example you have any policy services which was responding slowly, and because of that the 5 second the SLA breach was happening. So you can say like previously you have this n+1 query problem which fetching the policies one by one, but you have used this find by all. So on a single operations the only 1 dB call is there. So doing that, and that your response time decrease from 5 seconds to 400 like milliseconds. Move to the next questions, then they have asked you about like Gen AI integrations. As in this current Gen AI hype, so we are every companies they are integrating the designs, integrating the different third-party Gen AI services like ChatGPT, Claude, and different other services. So they can ask like how you will integrate the Gen AI services uh, in your projects. So you can go to this Gen AI integration files, and you can explain like what are the different client ID, secrets, and the API limits, response time, accuracy. Because what as you know about the policy services or any services, here I am taking as in the like, policy services, and what will be the request and response from the Gen AI. So you can try to understand that first, then how you will approach it, like that is very main crucial things. So instead of jumping into the code, like you can structure the solutions. Like first you need to tell, like for example I'm taking as an on policy controller where we have the policies, right? So there's kind of policies. So then this policy client is calling to the policy controller, and the policy controller is calling to the policy services, and within the policy services the JWT validation done, then the GenAI call is happening. Then depending upon the success or the failures, it's map the GenAI response. If it is success, it's map the GenAI, and in case if it's failure, then we have some fallback mechanisms which called some different methods. Then we will be logging the matrices. Okay, so this is exactly the flow. The first you need like JWT token utility class. So what you will say, like you will create then JWT token utilities class. Here you will be taking the secrets and the client. Based upon that, you will be creating an JWT tokens. Next phase is the request response model. So on that request response model, you have the general policy request and the policy response, and you have another request response which is the GenAI request and the GenAI response. So in the API layer, you have some API, you will be having some API, and you have this policy services. So after authorizing, then you will be calling this analyze policy with GenAI with your request, and this request on its call to this analyze policy with GenAI, it is sharing the one response. So then you need to configure this analyze policy with GenAI services. So for that, you need to create one service called policy services. On here we are creating this analyze policy with GenAI, which have the policy request. The request we got, depending upon the request, we will be calling the GenAI services. And how to call this GenAI services? See here, call the GenAI. So before that, before calling to this GenAI services, if you see, there is a one GenAI client is there, because we need to configure the URL, client ID, secrets, and from that, using the REST templates, we are calling to the GenAI URL with the entity, the request that we have sent, right? See, call GenAI, and here also we are, from that we are calling this GenAI, call this GenAI, and the response we got. So for example, if it is GenAI is responding, so we'll do some logging, because you should log the details. We'll come to that why the logging is also required, because they also ask me on like when during the code review questions. So I'll come to that. So for example, the GenAI is taking time to respond, so there is some SLA breach. Then that case, like there will be some fallback mechanism. So what in this fallback mechanism, the return the existing policy response, no system break. So if it is an like any fallback response, then we will be calling our customized existing response. As in senior level, you should tell like you will handle the fallback mechanisms, and you will use the separate logging structures, you will use the matrices. So like that you can explain, no need to code them, just use the pen and paper and try to explain them using the example. The next question they have asked, like the code review as a senior developer code review checklist, means they will ask like as a senior developer how you are reviewing your code. Before moving ahead with these answers, so in this channel I basically made company wise interview questions experience. So in the last couple of weeks or the month, I have appeared around 30 plus companies interview, so I will be sharing all those details in the coming videos. I request to please like the videos and subscribe to the channel. So let's move ahead with the video. So what they are actually testing, and what the interviewer actually testing. So they will text like how would you structure your review process, so how you will handle the issues before it hitting the productions. So for example, you can say like you will be reviewing depending upon the readability and the naming. One thing is that it may happens like you are not reviewing your like colleagues code. So on that case, what you will do, you will take some sample examples of someone who is reviewing your code. So you can take that like you are only reviewing, you can say like that. then you can try to relate some kind of example as well. So here the variable name is wrong. If it is saying a equal to p, you want to get it, it is the meaningless. There is no meaningful. So we should use the meaningful variables and the meaningful functions like that. So methods and variables should express some intent, not the implementation. Implementation wise it is correct, it is work fine, but it is very hard to understand like what these are actually doing. And the exception handling, so we need to use try catch block as well, but in the catch block if we are not implementing anything, then it is very difficult to, it will break the productions and very difficult to debug. So you should first use the proper logging mechanism. So log.error, not like log.info, it will be the error log because we are erroring. Then we will some have the fallback response as well. Then you will how, then you say like you are the most concerned about the security as well, like all the secrets things should not be hard coded. Here it is hard coding the secrets, but it is not the correct way. So instead you will be using using the variables, and you will be storing in the either in the application.properties file or some configurations, and from there we will be fetching the data. And the performance, if we see earlier we are discussing about the n+1 problem, so you will be here the thing is that here DSA is required, comes into the picture in the case of the performance. Here it is taking in db calls, and here it is doing with the 1 db call. Then the logging mechanisms, so if you are doing this log.info policy process, so policy process is just a statement, it is not structures like for regarding the which id for the which users the policy is processed. So and the duration, so the good structure is that you should be have policy id, user id, and the, like meaningful variables. Then the testing coverage, so yeah, you need to check like it is not like always the developer is testing the happy conditions only. You need to test the failures and the fallback conditions as well. You need to check this whether the developers are handling the edge cases or not, like null, empty, timeout, and you should make sure whether developer are following the solid principles and the design principle or not, single responsibility principle, open and closed principle, so dependency injections. So as an like experienced developer, you need to handle these design patterns and design principle as well. So I actually making the one series on system design, so you can go and watch those as well for your better understanding if they ask you on the some system design concept as well, so it will be helpful for you. Next questions, then they ask like how you implement a third-party services or the third-party API into your application. So it is similar to implementing the GenAI integrations, but there is some key point you need to be taking care about that. So basically they are asking like do you ask the right questions before writing the code? Can you identify the risks upfront? Do you think about production readiness? So before implementing the third party services, what you should be having the right questions, like as you are talking about the client id, secret id, api key, the response and request time, so those kind of things, and if there is any risks or not, so you can explain them like that. You will be taking the api details, you will be taking the prod api details and staging api details for testing on your development, the versioning, because like breaking changes on the vendor will upgrade, like if there is any vendor upgrading the api, then there is a versioning is required. So response request format, is it in the JSON format or XML format, or it is in any like files or some PDF like that. So you can explain those kind of things to your interviewer, and how you will be implementing those, like you can take this GenAI example that we have discussed the earlier, and here is the ready to speak answer. So let's go. They did not ask much about that, and it's a very short interview, so for me it took within like 30 minutes they completed. So what basically they are testing is that, keep in mind, so they are testing the architecture thinking. So so this interviewer was an architect, so they will ask you like this architecture related questions. They test you on the real world designs, the failure handling, fallback, observability, matrices. They are not testing on the DSL it code, because that we have already checked on the round one, not the theoretical definition, not the syntax, anything. They will just will try to understand how you are approaching a problem basically. If you want me to cover in the next video about the salary negotiations and the offers, so let me know on the comment sections. I will make a separate video for that. So thank you for watching the video, and all the best for your interview.